Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 223. Hope you're awesome as always. I've been told off by a few people. Why? Because it's been a couple of weeks since I put out an episode. I'll tell you all about that in a second, but first of all, I'm sorry. I apologize. I know what it's like. Because when you get in a routine and you're listening to something and you want more of it, right? It's like a TV series. So guess what? I'm sorry. I'm going to make sure that I keep them pumping out. I'm in Panama now. We had some craziness when I first got here. I can't even tell you all about it online, but look, I'm in the second apartment. Let's say that. And it was in about the matter of about 10 days. So, hey, I'm back. But you know what else? If you're listening to this, you might be listening to this and, it's not on iTunes. Craziness. After 222 episodes, apparently I wrote something somewhere, maybe in a title or something. We're still working out that iTunes' new rules they didn't like. So they, instead of messaging me and saying, hey, can you just change this? They have just done it to hundreds of people and just pulled the plug, right? So that's really nice of them. It's really nice of them. So we're getting that sorted, but guess what? We've got it all over the place. You can get it on so many different places, including the website, including Spotify, and everyone's got access to it. So guess what? I'm also going to put this out on YouTube. So you're going to still have access to Mindset by Design. And then, yes, iTunes will be back. iTunes will be back for sure, right? But you Stitcher crew, you probably don't give a damn anyway, do you, right? Oh, if you hear some music in the background or maybe some car horns or some shouting, it's Carnival. Yeah, Carnival here in Panama. And I just got told it's the same in Colombia, I think, and Brazil. It's the same Holy Week, right? That's what it is. So it's amazing. I love you Panamanians, but you guys and girls definitely know how to enjoy life. Not just the partying, which is wild, right? I love it. It's a one day holiday, right, for the country. But guess what? I have people I know over here who have taken 11 days off. So gotta love that. The ultimate siesta. But it's so nice to be back here. I love this country so much. We were just hanging out yesterday in the rainforest. It's so nice. It makes you realize, I'm in the city, but I'm in like the Spanish town, so it's beautiful. And then you go into the city, and the city's really crazy. But then you drive about 25 minutes the other way, and you're straight into rainforest. We go for a couple of more hours, and you're over the beaches. If you drive over the other side of the country, guess what? You're on the Caribbean side, and so you've got all the Caribbean beaches and flavor. I haven't made it that side yet, but I've got to go. And again, I just love the culture, the atmosphere. I've been back a couple of weeks now, and it's definitely a special place and definitely connected to my heart for sure. As crazy as it is, as amazing it is, hey, it's not for everybody, right? It's not for everybody. And what was actually quite shocking, and again, you'll probably resonate with this all over the world, but I've been away for about 8 months or so, and I come back to Panama and it's changed. And people won't see it. I see it. It's like we've had a quantum leap in people knowing Panama. It was there was this supermarket and I used to go to all the time. Maybe been there 20 times last time I was here. And I go in there and you've got cool music playing, the dan, 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 dan. It's always like a party in Latin America. I love it. And I'm walking around and honestly, every time I probably saw maybe 2 English speakers. I go in there this time. It's just full. It's pretty amazing. I'm not the only non-local around anymore. And that's how fast it shifted. It's amazing to see the world, and that's just a nice representation of how the world is changing. And you're either keeping up or you're not. You're either moaning about things or you're not. And what you've always got to look for is the excitement in the unknown. And when we can do that, it fulfills a part of us. Because otherwise we start living in this constant state of anxiety, constantly living in as the technology world just keeps ramping up. And you might be listening to this and you're older. I just turned, I'm not going to tell you how old, I don't care. I'm 41, right? I just turned 41 the other day. Yes, it was my birthday and I was going to put out an episode, but guess what? We were in chaos. But chaos is beautiful because it always leads to clarity. It always leads to the next chapter. And that's the same thing where you might be in your business or your life. You always got to understand that the next chapter is coming. The next chapter of the book, the next chapter of your life, the next chapter of your experience, your money, your confidence, finding out and discovering more about you. It's always the next chapter. But what happens is the brain is always looking for a constant level of safety. So if the brain's always looking for a constant level of safety, and we don't recognize this, we don't understand how the brain actually works and connects, then what happens is we're constantly living in a state of anxiety. Because the unknown could be the next paycheck. The unknown could be the business merger. The unknown could be the next trade. The unknown could be standing in front of that camera. The unknown could be whatever. But the challenge is, if we're not recognizing who we are in that moment, if we're not recognizing what neurological version of us is playing, if we're not recognizing that the brain is constantly defaulting to safety, then what happens is we are in a constant state of anxiety because of the unknown. Is this making sense to you? Yes, I'm going on a little rant. I haven't gone on one for a while, so I'm catching up. But truthfully, this is what I'm finding with a lot of people who are around me and some of the groups I'm running right now. It's different generations, and that generation has really got to embrace the unknown. Because the world is going to keep changing. And it's the same with looking at Panama, right? There's a lot of people who are going to be resisting the change, but is the change going to stop? No. Are the developers not going to come in anymore and upgrade all the housing? No, they're going to come in, right? So we can either fight against it or we can go with the flow. And the flow is something we've got to adopt because it's a concept that I teach called behavioral flexibility, right? Because what happens otherwise is we get very locked on to one way of thinking, one way of acting, one way of doing life, one belief system about the world, one concept about how business must be or how life must be, or our own expectations on somebody else, right? So if we get fixed on that one concept, what we're going against is actually against our genetics. We're going against our adapting DNA. Because DNA, that's what it wants to do. It wants to evolve. It wants to adapt. Just like actually our brain, the muscles that are pumping in our brain, they don't care what pattern's playing. They don't care what you're thinking. They don't care what you're saying to yourself. They don't even care what memory is stored in there. All they care about is one, safety, and two, evolving and changing. So wherever you are in your business and life right now, I want to let you understand this. It's not going to be there forever. It's the same with a business. The old classic saying is, it's either flying or it's dying. Because what we got to understand is that business might be hitting a certain level of income right now, but the challenge is the environment around us is constantly changing. So if we don't adopt, maybe it's trading, maybe it's where the economy is right now and you're running a hedge fund, right? Where maybe you're a banker, maybe, right? You are just getting started in business, or you're in the tech industry, or you're running an online business, or you're doing a new launch, or you're in sales, or you're just got a creative idea and you're planning a startup, or whatever the heck it is, right? It makes no difference. Or maybe you listen to this and just, Andy, what are you talking about, mate? I just want to be happy, right? But all of these things, the same things, all of this is constantly adapting around us. And we have to learn to be able to let go. It's true. It's the biggest thing. Because otherwise what kicks in is something called ego, right? And I'm not going to go into ego right now. That's a whole different topic. And guess what? I've done episodes around all of that before. And if you've worked with me or been in groups or whatever the heck you've done, then I've explained all this concept, right? Because this is how I create world-class performance in people. It's about designing mindset by design, right? It's about seeing what the next bleeding edge of the trend is going to be. Not where it's been, but where it's going. And that's how we adapt. And then we get so used to that next way of being, whether it's in ourselves or whether it's in the job or whether it's in whatever. It's always being looking and seeing what that next step is. Because if we keep doing what we've done, what's the classic saying? Yeah, we're going to get more of what we've got. So what we have to do, well, you get the idea, right? And that is a complete rant today, but I really hope that helps somebody. And speaking of helping somebody, and you, today's episode is a little bit, let me explain. When I'm working with, it could be high-level executives, it could be startups, it could be you right now just having an idea and you want to get out to the world. This is the thing. There's so many different parts. I help with branding, help with marketing, help with high-level sales, help with systems, help with creating absolute organizational flow. I can help with getting the CEO or the whoever it is to perform in the most spectacular way they can ever do, right? Ever be. And that's not just through actual practical conscious systems. So meaning like step 1, step 2, do this, do that. Well, that's all part of it, right? So we can maybe create that business to make it automatic. So the CEO can step out or the founder can step out and they can, get on with their life. Or we're creating a game plan over the next X amount of months so they can transition into a different part of their business, or we're hiring or whatever, right? All of that's business training. The other side of it is well, it's a dirty word, it seems to be a little bit. Hypnosis, right? And it's so interesting because I'm going to show you a little bit more into the science around this, but part of what I do and really what I got well known for is back in the day, remember, I've done this for 16 years, is being able to create change in people that nobody else can really do. And that sounds like a bold statement. It is a bold statement. Go look at the testimonials. You'll see why. But the reason is yes, we do the conscious work. Yes, we're doing the logical work. But the truth behind what makes someone be able to scale their thinking, which is a concept I've developed, right? Scaling your thinking. Your business is your mind. Your mindset is your business. Fact. Right? If you haven't gone to do the business diagnosis or the business brain assessment, it's free on the website. Go there now, right? But the truth is, what creates absolutely radical change in people is being able to retrain their thinking. Right? And I mean on a deep, deep level, in the structure of memories, we're retraining the nervous system to respond a different way, right? All of this stuff. Well, if you want to call that hypnosis, then all right. I can call it installations. We can call it trance work. We can call it brainwave frequencies. We can call it whatever you want. And I'm going to get into all of that. But the truth is, even doing visualizations, and this study might be slightly wrong, but even doing base visualization, which you don't even know, right? You don't even know the technical aspect of it, how to adjust the imagery, just by even playing with it, you increase your performance by about 33%. Think about that, right? Now, don't quote me on that stat. I'll have to pull it back up. But understand that even if it was 5%, 10%, 20%, it doesn't matter. You're increasing your performance. And what they talk about in business is certain KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. So if you can do that in business, like if we adjust this 1% and this 1%, then it's going to give a compounding effect. Then the truth is, you can do that with your brain. right? And if you start to understand what I teach is we're tuning your brain to be a high performance vehicle, then the truth is everything I've spoke about is needed, right? You've got to have it. But the other side of it is you are that high performance vehicle. And you need to start learning how to get in control of your mind, your emotions, that peak state that you step into, and therefore your results. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what business you're in, how you earn your income. It makes no difference. We need to fine-tune your thinking. What most people think is mindset is so funny to me. It really makes me laugh because people just think it's about being positive. Well, yeah, maybe for some people, mindset coaching does mean that. For me, it's about adjusting memories and installing certain behaviors and certain ways of thinking. And it gets extremely technical, right? And the thing about that is, that's not mindset coaching, or is it, right? It just depends on how someone looks at it, their perspective. But if you're sitting there right now and you are kicking ass in your business and you think that mental performance or the way we tweak brains is just about for when you're not doing well, then you're not understanding what this is, right? People come to me not just when they need to up level, but when they are leveling up already. And then we can put an acceleration, a turbo booster. We install that way of thinking so deep inside of them that it just makes them, well, accelerate even faster. Does that make sense? Maybe. Clear as mud, right? Maybe. But why am I going on this another crazy rant? I've missed my rants. You know, I don't know if you missed them too. Maybe not, right? But what I'm doing is actually going over a really nice article I just read, and it's about, has hypnosis, change that word to trance, visualization, whatever the heck you want, has visualization, well, been proven to be successful? Now, I'm going to use the word hypnosis just because it's just a semantic, right? It's just a word. But this is what the article's about. Now, I probably need to do a part 2 on this. I do, because so much of my trainings, actually, I'll put a link in the show notes where you get to go to a training and I go into it in way more detail. I think I actually just need to do a part 2 on this podcast, but this is going to be on YouTube as well, and I'm going to put a video around all of the concepts I'm talking. Yes, there's a new YouTube channel. Yes, people are going, Andy, when are the videos coming? Well, we're creating them already. There's quite a few awesome ones there. But you can go to the channel. Yes, check the show notes out. Yes, there's a link there. Go and sign up and subscribe because there's going to be loads coming. So back to this article. It goes into a little bit of the concept around it, and it's quite interesting. So I'm just going to go over that. That's all. It's going to be a fun little episode. It's not going to be too long because I want to keep them coming. And yeah, who knows? Who knows what down the rabbit hole concept I'll go into? But hey, that's part of the fun. And speaking part of the fun, head over to the show notes right now because I've got a very new thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm going to be bringing 1 or 2 people around this concept personally, and once that's full, then I'm going to open it up to a couple of my coaches, which is still pretty damn powerful. But right now, if you get in quick enough, you can actually connect with me. This is what I call, it's pretty damn cool. Everything I do is about performance, right? World-class performance. And not everybody wants that, but if that resonates with you, how to be a world-class performer inside of your business, then guess what? You probably need to listen, right? This is about how to unlock your performance. Yeah, and I'm giving you a free session. So what we do when we meet up, we're able to identify patterns that are holding you back. I'm going to show you a concept that I've worked out from the best in the world that I know for a fact will accelerate your business instantly. And I'm going to show you about unlocking the version of you that will absolutely create the results you want. So the link's in the show notes. I'm only bringing a couple of people on with this a month. It's special. It's awesome. You get to meet me, but you do have to qualify, of course, right? So head over to the show notes. If you resonate with anything I ever say and you've never jumped on one of these things, well, guess what? Time to do something different for 2019, right? Time to step up. So head over to the show notes, see if you qualify, apply, and guess what? We can then unlock your performance. Pretty epic? Pretty epic. So go and do that now, and yeah, let's jump into this. So crew, here we are. Nice to be back, right? Good, me too. I'm happy to be here again. So this is the article. It's by NY Magazine, New York Magazine. And has hypnosis finally been vindicated by neuroscience? Pretty cool, right? And it's interesting article. It doesn't go into massive depth, but the concept is really... yeah, it's really profound. Now, remember, I've done hypnosis or trance work or visualization work or whatever you want to call it for probably over 12 years. I've done, obviously, neurolinguistics for, like over 16 years. And the truth is, I've been able to create some crazy results in people and like astonishing results. And yes, it's obviously I'm good at what I do, but really, I'm only good at what I do because of the technology, right? Of what it is, how the brain works, of how the nervous system works, and other people have come before me, have done all these studies and done thousands of clients before me, and people like Richard Banley who created NLP, and John Grinder, and people like that who put themselves out there. I can only stand on the back of those people, or the stand on the shoulder of giants, right? Now, this article is from 2016, which it's, again, what did I speak about at the start of the episode? Things keep moving fast. You've got to keep up. So even this study is a little bit outdated because I think the concept of understanding the placebo effect and even understanding what the placebo effect is, and that's really retraining the brain to respond a very specific way. So if that's the case, what is a placebo effect? Well, it's creating true change, right? To me, it shows the absolute power of the brain and body connection, the cellular connection, the chemical connection, right? It shows the power of belief. So imagine what's possible in your own business, your own life, if truly what they do in clinical trials, clinical studies on pharmaceutical drugs, they go against a placebo effect. Literally, that's what they do. So if they're testing placebo, and I've actually done a podcast on this too, but if they're testing placebo and the placebo gets a higher percentage or higher result than the actual drug that they're testing, and they dismiss the placebo, isn't that counterintuitive? Isn't that ridiculous? Right. Now, I'm not talking about a placebo effect, but what this study or this article is actually saying is that it's not neuroscience or science in general has really gone against the concept of hypnosis, right? But I think this study is a little bit outdated itself, but it's got some cool concepts that I want to talk about. And because they can show the actual change that happens in the brain when people are going into very high states of trance work with monks, also with true change in different areas of the brain that light up, right, when people are doing different tasks. So they can see how the wiring of the brain is actually switched when people create, neurological change or different visualization or whatever, right? Does that make sense? So what they're talking about in this study, which is really nice, is because where they're saying hypnosis came from is, from the 18th century in Vienna by a guy called Franz Mesmer. And I love that because guess what? Mesmerized, right? Mesmer. So what he started to do is he became very famous, and I'll go into this study, but who brought it into the modern day era was a guy called Milton Erickson, and there was also people like Virginia Satir, and this is where really modern day NLP or modern day behavioral psychology came from, and it was from these type of people, again, standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So what was interesting about this, Mesmer developed the general theory of disease. Now, this is definitely 18th century neuroscience, right? Because none of this was true. But he developed the general theory of disease called animal magnetism. You like that? It's a pretty good name, right? So he's definitely good at sales too. Which held that every living thing carries an internal magnetic force in liquid form. Now, he was half right there, right? It doesn't say this in this article, but think about it. He's half right. We do know that everything actually has a magnetic force, right? It does. We are magnetic beings. That's just how it works. But he said it comes in a form of liquid, right? And illnesses arise when the liquid becomes blocked and can be cured if it can be coaxed to flow again. Or so Mesmer's thinking went, right? And obviously that's absolute BS, but again, he was onto some interesting things. So to get the fluid flowing, as science journalist Joe Marchant describes in a recent book, Cure, that Mr. Magma Franz Mesmer, right? He actually just waved his hands over the patient's body, and that was actually being able to do what? Well, that would start moving this fluid around, okay? So this origin of the melodramatic hands motions that, well, a lot of people use in stage hypnosis. If you want to take this a little bit woo-woo, maybe he was doing, well, energy healing, right? Maybe he was doing a different type of healing. So this article's just looking at it from one concept, but if we go a bit deeper, isn't that just what Reiki does? And again, is the science to back Reiki up? Well, no, there's not. I haven't seen any. Maybe there is. But I know for a fact that works. Now, you might be going, Andy, aren't you talking all about science and the brain and this? Yeah, but we go down the rabbit hole with everything on Mindset by Design. Because the truth is, I know it works for this one reason. And now some people out there, placebo effect, Andy. Maybe. But what did I just say about change? Right. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Did it work? Yes. So I had an injury from martial arts, from fighting in a competition, and I remember it very distinctly. My left hand, it was actually an inter-club competition, so we fought between clubs. Now, back then, everything I trained in was bare knuckle and bare feet, right? There was no pads. So I wasn't the best with control because I was used to whacking things, right? And yeah, so I had my hand slightly open so I wouldn't cause as much damage. And I hit this person with a beautiful jab. I remember it distinctly. But that was a mistake because that caused an injury in my index finger. And I remember not being able to basically make a fist, and I touched that finger. It would be excruciating pain for about 7 months. I rested it, we iced it, we did everything that we could. But guess what? Somebody said to me, and I was working where I was working, you need to go and see this person. They might be able to help. And it was Reiki. Well, I knew nothing about Reiki. I thought it was like physio, and I went to this person's house and I walked in, and guess what? There was all candles, and there was like mood lighting, and there was the massage table, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is going back before I left for New Zealand. So I was 23 years old, 24, and I went, whatever, I'm going with it, right? My hand needs fixing. And I swear on my life, within the week, I was hitting pads again. I was sparring again with that hand. I could close my hand completely. And it was profound. And I know how painful that was. And I just know that was Reiki. So again, placebo, again, changing neurological patterns, whatever. Who cares? So maybe this dude was doing that. I'm just saying, right? But not that the article goes into that. So let's continue. Anyway, let's continue. So this gentleman, as we say in the modern world, went viral. He blew up. He probably have about 3 million followers on Instagram or something. But he came up with the concept, and this was beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. Mesmerism. how good's that, right? God, you want mesmerism. But the height of his fashion in the late 1780s in Paris, you gotta love this. The guy went big, right? So he became the subject of what was essentially the world's first clinical trial. Think about that, right? King Louis the XVI, work that one out, right? So it's 10V, I'm not sure, I can't tell off the top of my head, I'll have to Google it. But you might, if you do know, yeah, hit me up. So King Louis might be just the 8th, pulled together a team of the world's top scientists, including Benjamin Franklin, who tested mesmerism and found its capacity to cure was essentially a placebo effect. Not a shred of evidence exists for any fluid. Yeah, I probably agree with him with that bit, right? There wasn't any fluid. But there's definitely some magnetism going on. So Franklin wrote, the practice is the art of increasing the imagination by degrees. Think about that, right? So what Benjamin Franklin said, by visualizing or increasing the imagination, you were able to increase, the placebo effect. But isn't the placebo effect real? Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Right, you get it. So, more than 200 years later, research in neuroscience is confirming at least part of Mesmer's theory, right? There's not a magnetic fluid coursing through our bodies. Well, that's what they're saying in this article, but we know that's partly true. But the power of mere suggestion or imagination, as Franklin phrased it, more effective treatment than many modern skeptics might expect. That's what Franklin phrased it. So even back then, they were understanding that. They didn't understand it, but they knew to a degree it worked. That's amazing. So it created, he talks about causing real measurable changes in the body and brain. Now, the next bit of what they're saying is quite interesting because what over the decades now, what basically it's been shown is a massive effective treatment for psychological problems like phobias, eating disorders, and also physical problems, including pains, both acute and chronic, and also gastrointestinal diseases. Physicians and psychologists have observed with their own eyes for decades that even looking at brain imaging software and studies that there's true change taking place, right? So people who practice hypnotism in a clinical setting have longer argued the hypnotized patients entered an altered state of consciousness. Right, this is my issue with this article because it's like talking Stone Age. Now, to talk about my experience, I've been able to help people get over post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not talking about business now. I'm talking about other side of modalities. And this is also the challenge with the coaching industry because even with hypnotism, or neuro-linguistic programmers or my own concepts of neural retraining, right? But the truth is, I've been able to help back in the day so many different types of people. As I say, from post-traumatic stress disorder, from abuse, rape, eating disorders, like people face picking, like just chronically, massive OCDs, ADD. I've been able to help people who, this is the truth, this was my mum's friend. She kept collapsing. She went to 5 different doctors. No one could fix her. I fixed her in, 1 to 2 sessions. Now, what am I doing is genius? No, I'm doing what somebody else has taught me with a deeper level maybe of understanding than most. But the truth is, what does that mean? Well, it means that you have to not look at what's being proven now, but you have to look at what the results are in people. And this is why I love this, but again, I told you at the start, they don't go into extreme depth in this article, right? And then what they talk about is like hypnosis or hypnotists have argued that you go into a different state, like you're watching a movie, says Dr. David Spiegel, a psychiatrist and medical director at Stanford University Center of Integrative Medicine. Now, he's awesome, and he's right. You do go into, like, you're watching a movie and you've entered an imaginary world, but understand what the hell is happening there, because they don't explain that. You're going in, you're changing and dropping brainwave frequencies. Yes. If you're dropping and changing brainwave frequencies like we do in certain different parts of our day, then guess what? That's how we create precision performance for a start, because we're changing brainwave frequencies, which allow you to be able to create a very specific, well, you'll be able to create flow states for a start, but a very specific program that we install in your brain so you think, feel, and act a very specific way, right? An entrepreneur version of you is different to the mom or dad version of you, right? Different programs that are playing. And when you're in the zone, well, that's, again, a brainwave frequency. I'm not going to go into it, but you get the idea, right? So, again, the article drives me crazy a little, but again, it's got some awesome points. So let me carry on. Because Spiegel explains, and that's the Stanford University's director, right? Medical director. There are a lot of ways to go into this state, but one way is to count to 3. Spiegel explains. On 1, you do one thing. You look up. 2, you do 2 things. You slowly close your eyes and take a deep breath. And 3 things. Let the breath out, keep your eyes relaxed, and then keep them closed. Let your body float. And then let one hand or the other float up in the air like a balloon when it's in this state. The hypnotized person's hand will raise into the air as if it's on its own accord. Spiegel then can reach over and gently pull the hand down, but it will float right back up again as if filled with helium. Well, yeah, but that's what that is again, that's a basic hypnotic induction. Okay, just so you know. It's basically what that is testing and training and testing the person to be able to, again, allow themselves to go into trance, right? And that's dropping brainwave frequencies. So let me explain a little bit more. Because the thing is, once you're in that state, people... I'll continue with the next study. But when you're in that state, you're able to do some profound things. But from my side, when we're talking about world-class performance, understand this, right? How do you think a baseball player hits a 100-mile-an-hour ball, right? They don't do it in an awakened high beta state. They don't do that. They're dropping into this floaty area, right? Where your brain is, well, it's in trance. It's in a different brainwave frequency. That's why you're able to slow time perception down. And people you might be going, Andy, what are you talking about? Slowing time perception down? Yes. How the hell do you think they're hitting a 100-mile-an-hour ball, right? How do you think a fighter, who I've worked with a lot of fighters and been one, how do you think you take pain? Yeah, but you're talking about then the people who follow the brain chemicals, epinephrine, and their adrenaline's pumping. All of that is true. But the truth is, you're in a level of trance or hypnosis. That's what it is. That's how it works. So this study is pretty cool because it's a landmark study in the prestigious journal Science in the late 1990s, led by Pierre Ranvel. Of the University of Montreal, described a study in which he hypnotized a group of people, right? Pretty standard thing, but this study is really cool, and it just proves exactly what I've just spoke about from personal experience, from tens of thousands of clients, right? So what he did is he briefly put their hand either on a painfully hot water, heated to 116 degrees Fahrenheit. This guy was a crazy man. Or room temperature water, okay? So there was two different things. 116 degrees Fahrenheit, which is harsh, or guess what? Room temperature, okay? So either water. Some of them have been told that they would be experiencing pain, but that they wouldn't be bothered by it. If, on a scale of 1 to 10, the hurt would normally register at an 8, they'd feel it at a 4, okay? As all participants placed their hands in 116 degrees water, the brains were scanned. The results were clear. Those who had been told that the pain would be less intense showed less activity in the brain, especially in the cingulate cortex, which is associated for pain processing. So that study changed the whole world. It changed everything because Dave Patterson stated that he's a psychologist at the University of Washington in Seattle who has been using hypnosis since the 80s, right? And he's helped burn victims withstand the intense pain when it comes necessary to excruciating, working with bandages removal and wound cleaning. That's insane. Do you know there's a lot of dentists out there? Guess where? California, because they're cutting edge, and other places. But they're not using anesthetic anymore, man. They're using literally hypnosis, and they're able to control people's pains 100%. Think about that, right? So guess what? This guy was using it since the 80s to help burn victims. And since the 19s, other well-designed control studies have been published showing similar brain changes or lack of activity. In another slightly trippy example, researchers suggested to people in a hypnotic state that the vibrant primary colors found in paintings by Pierre Mondrian were actually shades of gray. Brain scans result that these participants showed altered activity for these regions involving color processing. Think about this. I'll see if I can actually just Google it, YouTube it way faster. YouTube, a gentleman called Darren Brown. Not Darren, Darren Brown, okay? This is one of my idols. I've seen him live, but one of my idols. He's a hypnotist. He's the NLP guy. He's a magician. He's also just incredible dude. Actually, he's got a couple of things on Netflix, okay? But they're pretty dark because he does experiments these days to see how far he can push people with extremes. But Enzo, if you watch things to the end, it's always nice. But he was on the London Tube, and it was crazy. Using NLP I-axis and cues, and belief systems and values change, what he was able to do is completely scrambles different people's brain into switching off colors and changing colors. So basically, he took them in the car park. They couldn't identify their car with the colors, and it's pretty cool, right? It's really cool. But that's the power of understanding the linking, right, with the brain. So let's bring it back to you for a second. Think about what's possible in your life, your business. Think about what's programmed in your brain already. Think about what beliefs are holding you back. Think about what beliefs that ultimate version of you need. Think about it, the times where you are kicking ass, and if you're kicking ass right now, then I want you to take a little screenshot, a blueprint of what's going on, right? What people have you got in your life? What books are you reading? What are your routines? What are you thinking when the pressure comes on? How are you performing, right? When you start to analyze or create a screenshot or a blueprint of what it is going on right now, it's called strategy elicitation. But when we can do that with you, man, it's like, or woman, but we can do that, then guess what? We've got like a framework that we can work from. And if I'm able to then change or upgrade, or like we've got that blueprint, and then we install the mind muscle even deeper. Damn things. That's how we create ridiculous change. So anyway, let me get on with the rest of this article. So this is cool because what Patterson talks about then, remember the Burns guy, is when you do this, drop them into trance, hypnosis, right? The amazing thing is that it's as if you're talking directly to the parts of the brain that's monitoring the reactions. In his work, he ties suggestions of comfort to the daily practice of caring for burn wounds. Brilliant, right? In burn care, you're going to pull off the bandages and they're going to start washing the wounds, he explains. The message is that when your wounds are washed, you will be the reminder of how comfortable you are. That's called a post-hypnotic suggestion, by the way. The patient will often look like they're asleep, but if you ask them if they can still hear me, feel your head nod, almost always you get that reaction. He says he's seen this work for decades, but is so grateful for the recent advent of brain imaging studies that they serve as evidence to hold up to any skeptics out there. So when you start to understand this, it's like a slap in the face, right? It really is, because I don't give a damn what's going on in your life right now. I've been through most of it, I'm telling you, right? Or I've helped someone go through it. And so if your business is scaling rapidly right now, beautiful. We need to increase that, Okay? We need to get your nervous system used to that. To the reaction, to the speed, to the intensity, so you're not stressing, you get worrying, or being able to hold that focus for 20 times or 20x longer. Or if you're going through the ringer right now, as we say in the UK, you're going through the crap right now, right? Then guess what? Makes no difference. I don't care where you're at. I don't. Because it's not real. It's just a decision that you're making about where you are right now. And then you're locking on to certain imagery in your brain that's repeating. And as soon as you start repeating the neurology, you start repeating the pattern, it starts to integrate into the nervous system, right? That sucks. So if we're able to change that fast, then guess what? Everything changes. It's the same with a startup, for example, yes, let's use that startup as an example. So if you're going to do a startup, then guess what? It's all fun and games at the start. That's the pun, but you get what I mean. It's all fun and games at the start. That's the beautiful thing, right? But then as the business starts to grow and the reality kicks in that you have to constantly perform, and the stress comes, the pressure comes, deals fall out, deals come in, you're dealing with everyone else's ego, you're dealing with a team, you're dealing with organization, you're dealing with money, you're dealing with expenses, you get the idea. Then unless we've trained the nervous system how to respond, what happens is the old programs or the amygdala response takes over, and you start to go into this constant flighting, freezing, fighting response. This is not the way life's supposed to be. But when we can tune you into a different way, just even you practicing at home, the visualization, what you're going to do is you're going to step into flow. That's what we want. And the highest level performers that I've ever worked with, it's incredible to see. I fine-tune just a little bit of them, and it creates such a beautiful ripple effect. And if you can just practice playing with this, it's a game changer. Okay? Sound good? Beautiful. So, crew, there we go. The end of episode 223. Okay? Pretty epic. Hope you enjoyed it. Good. I enjoyed that one because guess what? I got into tear into a bit of an article, give my opinion, and we've got a cool audio coming out, and it's going to be free, and it should be out in the next week or so. It's called The World Class Performer, and it's how to set your mornings up as a world-class performer. You're going to be able to plug your headphones in. It's going to drop you into that trance that I spoke about using alpha waves, and guess what? Then, boom, we're going to pump that visual up. So keep a lookout for that. I'm going to let you know. What else? Hit those show notes up and make sure if you liked what I said and you're ready, go and see if you can apply for one of the brand new UYPS. Yeah, unlock your performance session, okay? So that's where we sit down together for 30 minutes. We're going to look at identifying the patterns that are holding you back. We're going to show you a concept that I've worked out from the best in the world that is going to 100% dramatically increase your performance. And guess what? We're going to unlock and going to show you the version of you that will create the results that you want. And guess what? Yeah, you got to apply, you got to qualify. But if you do, hey, we get to probably meet. Exciting, right? Absolutely. So head over to the show notes right now, and we've got some other goodies for you in there too. So until the next time, crew, much love. And, oh yeah, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.